Hello, my name is Peter Parfitt and welcome to New Brick Workshop. I thought I'd set you a 2-hour challenge today, and that is to make a shoehorn. You can bling it up if you like and do a little bit of CNC work and put some sort of name on there, or you can do it almost entirely by hand, but if you've got a bandsaw it really helps. Let me show you how I went about it. Now, you've probably seen a normal shoehorn which is a bit like this. Well, it's fine whilst you're young, agile, and get your hand all the way down to where your heel is and so on and so forth, and your shoes aren't too tight. But as you get older you find that a slightly longer shoehorn is preferable, and this is one I made about 5 years ago. I made it from a solid piece of maple and I did it by hand. I just went to the bandsaw, cut out the sort of profiles, and then I planed a little bit here with a round plane and then sanded it up to make the shoehorn. Well, I thought this time I'd be a bit more clever. So I'm going to use the CNC to produce the profiles on both sides, which I can then follow when I do the bandsaw work. So I end up with a blank which just needs a little bit of scalloping here and then quite a bit of sanding. So here's the stock I'm going to use. It's 45 by 35 end section. I'm going to make 2 shoehorns, hopefully. And at what will be the very top end here, I'm going to bling it up by putting parf there. And in order to make that stand out, I'm going to fill it with some epoxy filler. I bought this from eBay a long time ago, and one is white and one is black. And I'll use the white one on the dark coloured wood and the black on the light coloured wood. Now, the other way, of course, is you can draw a profile on a piece of paper and then transfer it to your wood and then just go straight to the bandsaw. Now, in order to do that sort of thing, it needs to be symmetrical. So find yourself a suitably large piece of paper and fold it. Then, knowing what your maximum width should be, halve it and then mark this on your paper so you don't go try and make it bigger than it needs to be. That's the maximum limit of exploitation, as it were. And you can then say, well, this is the foot end that goes in your shoe, and this is where it comes out here. And just do this to the best of your ability, remembering that when you do the sanding process, you can probably correct any silly defects. And then when you've done that, you can cut that out. And I'm really not taking any care over this because this is not the way that I've approached mine. And I know this is slightly short for this piece of wood, but it's the only bit of paper I had. And then you would open it up like so. And if you're able to use double-sided sticky tape, you could stick this on as it is. And then with that profile stuck onto your piece of wood, you could then take it to the bandsaw and then just follow the edge of the paper cutout. It's a little bit more difficult then when you then flip this over to do the other side, and it's a matter of judgment which you do first, whether you do the side profile or the top profile first. That's a question of preference. You need to think that through yourself. I've now loaded the little tool path to do the parf sign. I've got my cutter in there. I'm going to start the router and the extractor and then send the file. And there you see the parf lettering done, and bear in mind the first 20 millimeters at this end and at that end are going to be cut off eventually. So I'm now changing to my 6 millimeter cutter, which I think is that one. Yep. And that will be used to do the profile around the outside. I would use a spiral cutter, but unfortunately I've got 3, 4, 5, and that last one is a 1/4 inch one. So I'm using a 2 fluted cutter for this. And that's that first profile cut. I'm now going to flip it that way. This is really important that this is done correctly. Goes over just like so. But we're going to do the sides next. And there we have it. There's the lettering there, and there's our outside shape that way, and there's our outside shape that way. And then if we look back to the lettering there, and there's the shape going down there, and there's the shape going down there. So now I can take this to the bandsaw and cut away the majority of this wood. Right, now to cut this out following the profiles that I've created. I'm doing it tall side first because I think it'll be easier then to do this side after that. I'm not sure. We'll soon find out. And there you see the blank as it is now, and this is now going to be finished off by hand. I've got a little plane with a round sole plate here which will go down through there, and the rest will be done by sanding. And here's the little plane that I'm going to use to do the curved bit. I bought this from Lee Valley many years ago. Well, that was a little bit dusty. In a dust study I did a few years ago, hand sanding was one of the worst things you can do in the workshop. Anyway, here it is. Obviously not got its coat of Osmo on yet. Now, using this epoxy filler is actually very easy. This is the white, and all you do is you unwrap one part, and I don't know which is which, whether which one is the resin and which one is the hardener. Expose a little bit of the end and chop a small amount off, or rather as much as you need off. There's a little piece of that. Then very carefully wrap this back up again. And then ipso dipso with the other. Do your best to get the same amount. And cover this back over again. Technically I should have used a different cutting instrument to cut a piece of this off. I've never had a problem. And what you've got to do is start mixing this. Now, I find it best to mix this in your fingers. As your hands warm it up, it gets softer and softer. And once it gets to a certain softness, you can do this. Make it nice and long, fold it over, do that again, make it long, fold over, and so on until you're confident that you've mixed it really, really well. And I think that's pretty good. And now I'm going to put some into the path engraving that we've done. And I'm afraid you have to throw your gloves away after you've done this. And I'm pretty confident that there's enough on there. Now, you may have seen the little bookend I did, where I was a bit disappointed that I got some of this in the grain of the wood. I'm hoping it's not going to happen this time, but someone gave me a really good tip, and actually if I'd thought about it before I did this, that is, before one does the engraving, put a coat of, it could be shellac, it could be Osmo, whatever, let that go off, then do the engraving, then put the filler in, and whatever you've used, shellac or Osmo, will have filled the grain enough to stop the filler going into the grain. But anyway, it's only a tool, it's a shoehorn, isn't it? Well, and there's the finished item. And I reckon if you're not filming this, you should be able to make one of these in about 2 hours at the most. And that's even doing it with hand tools all the way. It really does help, though, if you've got a bandsaw. Now, you may have gathered I didn't make the other one. I might do yet. And I finished this off with Osmo Poly-X. What else would you expect me to do? And this is the 3011 gloss. Anyway, there it is. And I wish you the very best of luck making one of these. Try the 2-hour challenge. Many thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.